Good morning, my friends. So this problem is a problem that I chose from Module 7, Lesson 1, Problem Set to model how to do the four-square method. And the very first thing we do when we're working with the word problem is we just read it to get the understanding. So that's what we're going to do first. Lena picked 17 apples and her brother picked 19. Lena's mom has a pie recipe that requires 9 apples. How many pies can Mom make with the apples that Lena and her brother picked? So I've now read it. So my second job is to go through and underline all of my important information. So the first thing is Lena, she picked 17 apples. And then her brother picked 19. Lena's mom has a pie recipe that requires 9 apples. How many pies can Mom make with the apples that Lena and her brother picked? And I'm going to circle "and" because that's also telling me something that she's going to do. Now, before I even start the four-square method, not all word problems can be solved using the four-square method, but I will say almost all can. So I'm going to ask myself, is this one that can use the four-square method? And it is. So normally I would have to draw my four-square method, but this one has my 4 squares for it. So now that I have highlighted my information that tells me that I can do the four-square method, my very first step is to write down what I know. And that is, the first thing I know is Lena picked 17 apples. The second thing I know is that her brother picked 19 apples. And now there's a third thing I know. Each pie needs 9 apples. This right here tells me this is a 2-step word problem. I'm going to have to do 2 separate things to solve this problem. Now remember, even though this is done in quadrants, step 1 is to write what I know. Step 2 is kind of tricky. Remember, we come down here and we write our guiding question. Remember, this is where we take this sentence here. How many pies can Mom make with the apples that Lena and her brother picked? That question, and we turn it into our statement, because that tells us exactly what I'm solving for, and that tells me exactly what I need to do to solve my word problem. So how many pies can Mom make with the apples that Lena and her brother picked? I can now make that into a sentence. Mom can make blank pies with the apples Lena and her brother picked. So now I know what I got to do. I have to figure out how many pies she can make. But before I can do that, I have to figure out, well, how many apples did they pick all together? And that's why I said, remember, I go, well, I'm going to circle this "and" because that's a guiding question. Lena and her brother picked. Because, man, Mom can make a certain amount of pies with how many Lena picked and how many her brother picked. But they want to know how many she can make with how many they both picked. So my first step, because remember I said this was a 2-step word problem. So my first step is to draw. So first I have to figure out how many apples they picked all together. And I'm going to use a tape diagram. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw me a tape diagram. And I'm going to say, right about here is Lena. Well, I messed up. But that's okay. Mistakes happen. Right about here is Lena because she should be a little smaller. This is why we always use pencils in math. So this is 17 apples and Lena. And this is 19 apples and her brother. And remember, we're solving for the unknown. So we're going to solve for A, that variable, that math word, variable. We're solving for A to find out how many she solved, how many all together. And all together is that key word that I'm looking for. 17 plus 19. So that brings me down here to this section. 17 plus 19. And what is that? So I can make my 10s, and so I know that 9 plus 7, well, 9 plus 1 is 10. That leaves me 6 left over. So I know that's a 6, and I had to carry my 1. So that's 36 apples. So they had 36 apples all together. Now, I can come up here and I can write 36. And I need to label this. Now, normally, we would say, okay, we're all done. But today, we're not. Because remember, it's how many pies can Mom make with the apple? So now I have to think, how many pies? What is it asking me now? So if I need 9, am I going to add? Am I going to subtract? Am I going to multiply? Or am I going to divide? So what I know is that she needs 9 apples. So what I would think about here is I would probably think I'm going to divide. And I'm going to switch colors just so you can see that I'm onto a different part of the problem. And what I know is that she has a total of 36 apples in all. And that she needs 9 per pies, right? What I need to find out is P. How many pies can she make? That's our unknown now. So now, remember in a division sentence, and this is also my second clue that I'm dividing, is because I know how many I have in all. So now I can come over here and I go 36 divided by 9 equals, and Miss Lindgren is doing her finger method just to double check her math, because we all know Miss Lindgren is actually this is always her subject of weakness. So I did my finger method. Show your parents the finger method. And the answer is 4. Oh, I labeled that wrong. What should I have labeled it? She can now make 4 pies. 36 divided by 9 equals 4. So she can make 4 pies. And that is how we solve our word problems using a Foursquare method. And this did take a little while because I walked you completely through the process. But if you think about it, you really solved 2 math problems in this one. So I know it was long. Give yourselves a long pat on the back. Stand up, do 4 jumping jacks. Take 3 deep breaths. Reach for the sky, and there's a snake in your boot. And give yourselves a good job and get back to work. Have a great day.